Hey, welcome to the process. My name is Dr. John Bush. This is part 3, my ADP versus end of the season fantasy points RBs, part 3. So you need to watch part 1 and 2. Looking at 2015 to 2022. I've done quarterbacks. Tight ends next, and then wide receivers. Okay, so let's see. What do I need to tell you? It is important to have a foundation to understand historically what has gone on so you can have a proper expectation of what may and may not occur in your fantasy drafts. Okay? Being overly optimistic, I have found, is a problem, is a bias, and that's because people cannot or will not do the research to see the reality. They only see the winners, they don't see the losers. That's why people buy books or Kindle, whatever, on the bookstore. How I made $1 million in the stock market. Wow. Okay, how do I do it? What they don't get to see is the other bunch of books that were never written by multiple people that maybe lost $1 million, maybe doing the same things the lucky guy or girl did. So you only see the winners. You never see the gravestones. You never see those who tried. You'll hear, oh, they made $1 million. They were, they were not afraid of risks. They invested in whatever the diatribe is. Okay, let's look at the total population. Okay, what is the reference class forecast for people who are aggressive and invest in, I don't know, transportation and trains. I don't know. Okay, where's the winners? Where's the losers? Okay, what's the chance that I can win following this pattern? See, none of that happens on Twitter. None of the experts. Well, if you do heavy RB, zero RB, late quarterback, early quarterback, whatever, they'll cite, if they cite last year, if they cite in, well, last year, and sometimes it's only their data. Yeah, I played 10 best balls, and the only ones I won was where I picked RB as my third pick, round 3. Okay, is that the new trick? That kind of thing, folks. This stuff ain't working out there in cartoony land. Come on. Let's look at reality. Let's see what's going on. Okay. Let's continue part 3. Let's see what I'm talking about right now. Sometimes I don't remember. Okay. So now I showed you the positional ADPs, right? Before the season, ADPs will mark, positional ADP will mark the running back that's number 1, number 2 down, and I went to the 60th running back. Okay. Now I kind of group together and try to get information on draft rounds. So now we can look at draft rounds. Okay, what's going on per draft round with RBs? Okay, where were they drafted? What was going on, etc., etc. I highlighted the top 30. I highlighted the bottom 30. So it is very clear to me that the best rounds to pick running backs are the first 5, right? Maybe 6. 5 looks good to me. Okay. Look at the average. Okay, 242, 230, 206, 190, 187, 188, 183, 164. Rut-row. The rug gets pulled out from under you around 7. So, if you think you're going to do extreme zero RB, and you're thinking, I'll wait to the 7th round, I'll grab a tight end, a quarterback, and 4 wide receivers, and then I'll pick some RBs here. Ooh, that is going against historical grain. It doesn't mean it won't work, but let's be realistic. Are you good enough to do it? What's your diary say? That's why you mark down. That's why I do best ball. It allows me to experiment. Hey, does that work? Did that work for me? Am I good enough that I can live on the edge like that? Look at the failure rates last year, 10th round. Okay? Wow. I mean, some sadness there. So you're riding in a plane that's going to run out of gas at some point. I say 5th round, the gas starts running out, and here you go. Certainly by the 10th round, you're about crashed. Okay? So you got that 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. Right there is, if you want to test yourself, I suggest that's where you really put your effort in this draft 2023. Dig deep. Variation means how extreme is the outcomes. Again, we're looking before the season. These points are after the season. Variation was highest in round 5 and round 1. Rut-row. Hold it now, Dr. Bush. You just told me the best rounds are 1 to 5. That's true. But you just said some of the riskier situations are the uncertain rounds 1 and 5. That's true as well. So you kind of have some good rounds to fish in, but there's some surprises even there. It's not just safe in the water. There's sharks out there, and you could still get surprised. So if you ignore variation, you could get surprised. Round 3 looks like the safest in the top, 7 rounds historically? That's interesting. Is that something to hang our hat on? Diary. Okay. And then there's the median points. And again, median would say we can go to the 6th round. So somewhere between the 5th and 6th round there. Okay, looking at the median versus the average. Okay. So you need to understand that. You need to understand what's waiting. And by the way, look at 2015. That was the year the zero RB worked the best. And look at the sadness, round 7, 8. It was not good. And look, the only year where the first round RBs were the worst in the last 8. We have not seen that. Look, 2016, a little bit better. 2016. So zero RB was still having its day a little bit, round 1. Look at round 2018, 19, 20. Okay, the zero RB ignoring round 1. A lot of variation. I'm just saying, though, that there's some goodness happening there too. So be cautious about your zero RB. Is that something you can live with? What's your diary say? Here's what historical data. This is the landscape. This is the foundation. You need to look at this. You need to consider your diary. You need to think about and do your research, folks. Notice I didn't say, oh, I'm going to draft 5 RBs in a row, so I know I've got. No, we're not saying that. Okay? You just need to be thoughtful about how you approach things. Okay? So, In best ball, I've done some zero RB this year, just kind of see what's going to happen. If it's not expensive, play $5. Okay, $5. If I lose it, it's not. It's okay. Okay. My big money is going to be in the redraft where I play $35 leagues at FFPC. Okay, where I can win 300 or 400, 10 times my money. I like $300 or $400. If I can grab 7 or 8 of those, I'm gonna have a good year. I grabbed 6 last year. I'll say that. I know. How do you know? I ain't gonna worry about it. I know what I did. So anyway, nice foundation. So let's take a look at what this is telling us in a big broad scheme. 8 years, draft round versus end of season, fantasy point median, and variation. So the variation, high drops down, 3rd round lowest, pops back up to the 5th, drops again, and by the 8th round, we're pretty much a nice variation. So you got some turbulence here, rounds 4, 5, and 6. Hold it now. Isn't that the rounds that people talked about last year? That was the RB dead zone. Do you remember that? Go look on Twitter. That was the big squawk. Why were they talking about that? They didn't say, did they? Well, whatever. Here's my hypothesis, that whether they knew it or not, and I suspect maybe many didn't know. If they did, they should have told you and showed you this graph, that they were picking up on this variation that was happening in rounds 4, 5, 6. D. Mike and I were drafting running back, wide receivers. We call this the wide receiver value round. Look at Science of Fantasy Football. Look at that article, value zone. We nailed it because we were right there where people were having trouble and get lots of variation and a lot of uncertainty. We were going the opposite way. And it may start happening again this year. I've got evidence that it might be coming back. It'd just be part of the thing. Notice round 1, still risky biscuits here, folks. Don't think, got that top RB, I can forget it. Until you got Jonathan Taylor last year. You thought you were good. Ruh-roh. You weren't. Surprise. So it's all good. And then here is the median variation. And again, we start dropping. I mean, it looks to me like probably round 6. You can't see it, but there's the diamond right there. And then you drop down, and then you start dropping down. So if you did tiers, you'd kind of maybe that. I mean, you actually got the rounds equal tiers, and then there's that. This could be a tier. 7, 8, maybe even 9 look a lot alike. Looks like 10, 11, 12 look a lot alike, and 13 and 14. So we have separate tiers, and it starts mushing together at the end. So you need to understand what that means. And I think I showed you all the tricky traps that were those RB5, 6s. Okay? So a lot of that's happening where you're getting big surprises. And you're saying, but the variation's low. That's because there's not a lot of goodness. It's all sad. That's why so variation being low is not necessarily good all the time. People get bumfuzzled by that. Not at all. Okay, so that's good stuff. Don't you love this stuff? I love it. So, another way to condense the data even more is look at RB1 types who showed up in the top 12 at the end of the year. So the ones that were predicted to be RB1 types, This was their fantasy points per game. Okay. Some good years and bad years. Preseason. This is the ADPs here. I'm sorry, this is not fantasy points. This is ADPs. Silly John. And you can see that round 2, 24, 37. Notice we start blending. The 3s and the 4s start happening by 37. That's the average. And the 5s are at 44. And look, 6s and below that are 60th. And so things start getting muddled here in the ADPs. And so you could take a look at that. Let's see. Yeah, finish sector versus ADP positional. Okay, so I think I did. Yeah, so what I did here was I made a bar graph of this data. Okay, so this was not fantasy points. Sorry, this is average ADP for the RBs that finished in the top 12. So this should be position, end of season type RB1s because they finished the top 12. But what was their ADP? Some went as low as 18. Okay? Some went as low 23. Some, the average is 13. So that's good. The lower the number, the closer the public was to the finish. So these last 2 years were good. 2020 with COVID, not so good. 2015, the second worst, and that's when we had 0 RB ran the table, folks, and that's why. Because you were picking up RB 1 types all the way down to RB2 level. So getting close to the 20th pick versus the 13th pick. So anything close to 13 is probably predicted. Notice 13, 5, 7. So 4 years has been close to 13. Look at 2019, even better. So we can say we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 great years. 2020 COVID, 2015 sadness, 2016 as well. Okay, so the average overall was around 13. RB2s, look at the RB2s. Look at the average was the same almost as the RB1s. That's what happened in the RB 2015 was you were getting all these guys that were doing things later, okay, in the ADP versus earlier. So completely breaking the ADP bank there, as it were. And look at the differentials in the normal years. Look, 13 double, 13 more than double, 13 pretty close. Look at this, 23 still sad. COVID was sad. 13, 24, 30. So what we should see 12, 13 to 24, that makes sense. Kind of a quote. I'm going to put this in normal year. Okay. You're saying, well, nobody shows this kind of stuff. I don't know what they're doing for you. Okay. I don't know. How many sites you pay for, Dr. Book? Folks, I pay for one site, and I'm not going to tell you who, because I don't want them to know either. Screw them. Okay? I pay my dues. Okay? And why do you do that? Because it's easier at the end of the season to grab their data and put into my data and then start manipulating. It's like they don't have this chart. I have to go make all this crap up. Okay? I don't like that. I shouldn't have to do, but I do. Okay, you shouldn't have to get this old generic crap that everybody throws at you. Because if everybody's using the same stuff, it can't be valuable. Look at the horse racing. If everybody's doing the same thing, it's not going to pay you off at the pari-mutuel windows. It's just not. RB3s, 2015, 40th. Look at 2022. You talk about some sadness. 64. So people were grabbing RB3s as low as where normally RB5s and 6s go. Have they told you that last year? Oh, I haven't heard that at all. Well, Dr. Bush just told you 2022 was not a normal year in distribution. That number should have been close to 36. It wasn't. Yeah. So what was going on last year? That was there injuries? What was going on? So 2023, what do we think? Normally, 2021 looks, at least the first three, looks about like you think. 2020 looks, the fourth, the RB4 should be closer to 48. This should be closer to 60. This should be 72. And this should be, 80 something. But we hadn't seen it. So it gets a little muddy in here. So there are some opportunities. Look what RB4s were doing for you. 46th. So that's about what you would predict. So you were getting an advantage last year. You were getting some bargain RB3s last year. You didn't see those bargains in RB4s. So 2022 was a very intriguing year for RB3. So if you were good at picking those up, you probably prospered. Okay, so you had normal. Hey, so the late RB3 strategy worked right here. Notice that number is not 24, right? It's not like 0 RB. Look at a 0 RB year, 40th. Okay, that's close to normal. The problem was the first two semesters were what was screwy. So that's the pattern for a strong 0 RB. COVID was a strong 0 RB year. Last year, I would predict that 2023 is probably going to be closer to this. I don't know where the RB3 came from. Since that is unusual, we call that a giraffe. If you look at the data, 40, 30, 35, 30, 28, say 30, 40, 40, 64. So notice this is pretty steady and this sticks its head above. We call that an outlier. I call that a giraffe. That giraffe's sitting there. Will we ever see that again? It would not make sense that the public would miss things again unless there's all sorts of strange injuries. So I wouldn't predict that. So it's not like, 2022 will be like 2023. They will be the same. So if people are trying to sell you on their goodness, man, I was really good last year. Look, I was able to pick up some viable RBs lead. Wow, you must be really sharp, guy. No, you just were on top of the giraffe's neck and you got lucky. You were the lucky fool last year. Okay, the lucky fool. I need to write a book. I was the lucky fool. Everybody else was dead, and I lived. Wow, I need to find out how you did that. Okay, so this is really good. So if you look at this, if you really want to spend some time and take a look at this data here, just compare. The ones are the green, and so the 0 RB year. Look at the RB2 are almost the same, close to 20. Look, 13. That even. Look at the pattern. That. So you see a stair-step phenomenon. Notice here is the RB3. Look how funky That should have been right there, folks, where I've got the arrow pointing. Been a perfect stair step. Okay. A little bit funky there. Last year was sad. Okay. Notice this was a little low. This was a good year for fours. Should have been right here. So if you want to see perfect, 2019, not bad. This should have been a little bit higher, but not bad. That's the kind of pattern we expect a stair step. When you don't see that, then that is something strange. Look at this, how strange this is. Looks like a bridge. Huh? Look at this. What is going on here? And so forth. So, very strange, unusual patterns here that you need to be aware of. Here is the same thing, average. I just did the average over the 8 years. And notice we've had some really funky 3s and 4s. Over the years, things have really happened. You might get tricked by this. You do need to look at individual years, but the overall trend is a good stair step, but then looks like the 4 and looks like the 5 should be higher and the 4. So we've had some variation in these 3, 4s, and 5s to where if you overlay this trend, that it's not how it should be. It looks like you get a step, and then it stays pretty much the same. So, how good are you at picking in this zone? I think that will tell you how good. So if you're paying money, how good were they? If they're using 1 year of their performance, show me the last 8. Have you been able to take advantage of this over the last 8? That's why I showed you this. You can see, here's this where this data comes from. Here I plotted it. Pretty neat. So I broke the RBs down, in this case, by the top 6. So I wanted to stretch it. And then I asked the question at the end of the season, how many RBs that were drafted at top 6 finished in the top 12? 21 out of 32. Okay, not bad. 7 to 12. 18 out of 29. Okay, so you can see that people trying to find a top 12 RB, 13 to 18, only 7 out of 19, 11 out of, what is that? Oh, is that 7 out of 18, 7 out of 19? And notice, so if you're looking for an RB1 types past the 24th ADP, you're not, it's just not happening, folks. Look at that. You see right there. Okay. So it's dreamland. If you want to see how good you are, show me how year upon year you're able to beat these odds and do better in your teams. Then you got something. Okay. Right there. So again, mix your diary with this. This is goodness here. Oh, so good. Here is who finished as an RB2 that were drafted. 4 out of 30. So really, public's pretty good. 6, about the same. 8, starting to get, well, it's kind of 13 to 8. 13 to, yeah. About half. A little bit low here. Look at this. 10. So people were finding RB2s down to the RB3 range. And then looks like you get sad again. RBs here, look at this. Finishing as an RB3, look at the variation here. Look at all this stretched out. Okay, so overall, in the first 6 RBs, you're getting 25 out of 32 finishing RB1 or 2. So if you want to kind of put that in your head, so in the first round, you're getting 25, 24. So 49 out of, what is this, 61 That's a pretty good number. The public is not bad overall. You still got to beat everybody in your league, but overall, they're not too bad. So when people poo-poo ADP and, well, I don't need that, folks, why would you fight this? You need to work with it and flow with it. And this data allows you foundationally look at this. This is good stuff here. This is the counts. I just took that and graph. So the green is the RB1s. And again, looks like after the 24th pick, you're not going to see a lot of green. Okay, some, but nothing to predict. So you've got till the 24th RB to try to grab a top 12. So somebody said, well, 0 RB. Well, how long does the 24 RBs last in the draft? I actually have a method where I track the draft by ADP, and you could see that number. I posted a lesson on the best ball, the ADP, back in May for the FFPC. And you could track that number and see where that goes. Where's that happening at? Is it too late? Are people rushing, or do you have an opportunity? In other words, if 0 RB was the thing, then this kind of data wouldn't exist. You'd start seeing it here, greens here, here, here. The counts would be much higher, probably in this range. We're not seeing that at all, folks. And the 2s are in blue, and notice they're peaking 13 to 18, dropping again. Okay, and a lot of variation in that whole show there. Okay, and so forth. So you can read it that way if you want. And let's see, RB in the top 12 or 24th. So I just looked at the ADP numbers and only tracked the top 12 or 24. So green is top 12, red is 24. So you can see about right here, 24th pick, it goes down. You're not finding one down here, care what people say. Notice that sometimes the 2s can be out here in the 48th. So there is some help, and even kind of potentially even further than that. So my hypothesis is 0 RB works if you are good at picking RB2s and you're picking them up here and you've got enough that weekly it's making it work and you're getting tricked. You don't realize what you're doing. This, people, how come they hadn't told this? Here it is, folks. I'm telling you, that is how I interpret this data. Is 0 RB, the success is fueled not by the 1s, but by the 2s, because you're getting an opportunity in the 43rd, 48th, 49th, right in here to pick something. If you're good, you can make a 0 RB work because you're grabbing 2 solid RB2s. And then these people are hoping these guys weekly last and don't get hurt. So you see how people that put all their eggs up here, if that explodes, then here you are with 2 solid RB2s that you were able to draft later. So that's my theory. You won't hear it anywhere else that I've ever heard. Feel free to Twitter me, DM, if you've got some people say that data. And again, what are you paying for out there in cartoony land, folks? Here we go. By the way, it's 34 minutes. I got 2 more slides, so that's why this is extra long. I probably could have broke it up, but I'm on a roll here. Okay, this could be the most important chart you see if you're thinking about 0 RB right here. And again, where's your diary? What does it say? Are you good in this range grabbing an RB2? Your RB2 success, I think, should tell you, should you do 0 RB? If you're not, and the ones are what floats your boat, then you don't need to be testing that. So it's another test. Okay? I need to remind Dennis about this. This is good stuff, folks. Wow, this is good. Okay. Oh, I just changed this data to percentile of the total, just for you to see how good we're talking here. And look at the RB2s. Look at that. 30th percentile. Look, even right down here to the 78th pick, if you're able to poach in here and get one of the goodness, then there's the key right there. Right there. Okay. And of course, here's the RB3s. There's some, you could pick some up late, but I think it's the 2s that win your league if you do 0 RB. Just saying. I think that's what's pinned it. And I think I graphed that again. Colorized focus. Here's the top here. Okay. And then here's the second one in purple. Okay. And then I think the third in yellow, and then the fourth in red. Something like that, I think I did. So I was just trying to make it easier. But I think if you're able to pick kind of right in here, your 0 RB, right in here, and get 2 2s, you got a shot. And that means you've got probably a quarterback, a tight end, and 2 power wide receivers that tend not to get hurt. So if you can pack that up, control your league with one of the best tight ends, QBs, WR1s, 2 of them, and you can get 2 2s, you got a shot at taking your league. And I think that's what is driving people. Hard to do. Check your diary. Okay, I have finished in the 3rd lesson. I know I could have split this up, but I was on a roll. Here it is. I hope you're enjoying. This is great stuff. I'm fired up. I want to go draft now. Okay, we will start with tight ends coming next. Next lesson. Okay, woo-woo. Having fun.